others. Well, Simon Conway is an Iowa radio talk show host who has spoken to each of the Republican presidential candidates, except Mitt Romney and John Huntsman, who's not competing in Iowa. Simon, thank you so much for coming on and doing this simulcast. I see you at the mic there. Well, what's it smell like? What's it smell like to you out there? What's the sense? Just if I'd ask you to do a little peroration now on which way it's going, what's it feel like? What is it?
Well, first of all, it's always a pleasure to welcome a Democrat to the Simon Conway Show, Chris. So you're very welcome.
Well, what is that? Are we all giving our party labels out here? Is that? Are you giving me yours or what? Or you don't want to give one?
I always.
No, you want to give me one, but don't give yourself one. That's fair enough.
No, Chris, I'm not a Republican. Never have been, and never will be. I keep it by independence.
So you give out labels, but you don't assign one to yourself. That's very clever.
There isn't one. Look, I just want to make sure we're starting with some honesty. You're clearly working for the re-election of Barack Obama.
I want to make sure that
and that's okay.
Well, this isn't going to go very long here if you're going to go into this game of assigning. What is your political voting record then? How did you vote last time?
I've only voted once. I'm a fairly new citizen to the United States, and I
who did you vote for?
I voted for John McCain while holding my nose.
You voted Republican.
I voted Republican.
That is how we should identify you, sir, based upon your record.
If you wish to do that. But look, the bottom line is...
No, you're doing it to me, so why don't we do it to you and have some fun?
Fine. If you want to do that, Chris, you can go ahead and do it. It's untrue, but you can go ahead and do it. But that's okay. I just want to be clear that we're going to be honest here. You're clearly working for the re-election of Barack Obama, and I'm okay with that. I just want some honesty here.
Well, what are you working for, sir?
I'm working for the election of a conservative.
And who would that be this
time
around?
We don't have an individual yet. We've still got an open field, and it's very interesting. And certainly Iowa is not done yet. I think we've got plenty of time. I think we can still see this race change.
And of the conservatives in the field right now, which ones do you think are the most conservative, the best by your own standards?
I think the most conservatives are quite clear. I think you've got Michelle Buckman, you've got Rick Santorum, you've got Governor Rick Perry. I think they're all very, very conservative.
And which of them do you think would be the most prepared to be a good president for the country?
I think they could all be very good presidents for the country, Chris. I don't endorse anybody on my own show. I'm not going to endorse anybody on yours.
But who do you like? I mean, let's look at the field now as you listen to your listeners out there. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the best fit of the Iowa culture you've begun to learn about in the years you've lived out there? Which of the candidates seems to be the best fit if you were looking at the way the culture runs out there, the political culture right now, going into the caucuses on the 3rd of January?
You know, Chris, both the Democrats and the Republicans love Iowa to be first in the nation because it's a great size for lesser-known candidates with less money to get around a whole state. They don't have to spend some money to burst through. A prime example of that is Mike Huckabee 4 years ago. He didn't have much money and suddenly burst onto the scene, and he was able to do that in Iowa. The Democrats like it for exactly the same reason. And the second reason is there is such a diversity of opinion here that you really have to appeal to all sides. So you've got people that are obviously very concerned about the economy. The economy is always going to be the number one issue in our elections. But here on the conservative side, you certainly have people that are very interested in the social issues as well. I had Rick Santorum in my studio yesterday. I actually asked him if his campaign had made a mistake by focusing on these social issues, and he turned that right around on me, and he said, look, social issues actually are about the economy, because if we don't take care of the family, then government is stepping in and we're spending money to support single parents. And so that's why social issues are also about the economy. He made a very valid point, I thought.
Simon, let's take a crack at the foreign policy issue. We're winding down the American war in Iraq right now, hopefully, and I'm thinking about that war. And I'm thinking about a candidate like Ron Paul, who's very much against those kinds of foreign policy adventures in Iraq or in Iran. And then you have a much more hawkish person in Newt Gingrich, for example. Who do you think would have the upper hand in that debate? Tonight, for example, I should have another debate out there, the hawkish or the more dovish position of Mr. Paul? I
have absolutely no doubt at all that not just Newt Gingrich, but the other candidates on that stage are going to go after Ron Paul on that very issue. And actually, I'm on the record. It's the one candidate I guess I've kind of ruled out myself personally, because although I love Ron Paul fiscally, and I absolutely adore him fiscally, and if we'd have listened to him 30 years ago on that particular subject, we'd all be far better off, I think, right now, Chris. But he does scare me when it comes to foreign policy. In fact, you've already played one of my videos on your show when in this very studio, I asked him 3 times and he said he would not have given the kill order for bin Laden.
What about the war in Iraq? Do you think it's popular in Iowa right now? The fact that we fought the war beginning, well, it's now 8.5 years. We're winding it down, leaving the last combat troops. Do you think that was a wise war in the eyes of the Iowa voters?
I think we're beyond that now. I think people are very glad that we're coming home. I think a lot of people feel that right after we took out bin Laden, we should have come home from Afghanistan as well. I'm not even sure what the mission is in Afghanistan anymore, to be honest, Chris.
Why do you think we went to war in Iraq?
I think we went to war in Iraq because, as the president told us, we believed, and I do believe that he believed, that they were a very serious threat. Right now, I think the biggest threat, however, to the world is Iran, and we need to pay very close attention. And it's embarrassing when the president of the United States goes on TV and says, please, Iran, can we have our plane back?
Yeah, so you think the war in Iraq made sense?
I think the war in Iraq, based on the intelligence that they had at the time, made sense, yes.
No, well, do you think it was a wise policy to go to war in Iraq, to intervene in that country, take it over? Do you think that was a smart move?
I think.
And you think Iowa agrees with you on that?
I think it was a smart move at the time, and Iowa will agree or disagree, and they'll let me know on my show as they do every single day, Chris. I do think it was the right thing to do based on the intelligence that we had at the time. Yes, I do.
Okay, do you
but I think we need to be paying close attention to Iran.
What role should we play with Iran?
What role? We absolutely should support our closest friend, probably in the world, which is Israel. We need to support our ally. We need to stop attacking our ally. We actually need to move our embassy to Jerusalem, which is a travesty that we don't recognize. We should have an embassy in Jerusalem right now. We should certainly do that. We need to support our ally. We need to recognize how dangerous Iran actually is if they get a nuke. And I actually think we're probably doing some covert things. There's been some very interesting satellite imagery. I think we are probably partially responsible for some of that satellite imagery with nuclear facilities showing blown up buildings, and that's great. Listen, when the president took out bin Laden, I was actually on the air. I'd been here a week, and I made the decision to take this station live, and we stayed on the air after the president's announcement till midnight that night because I had waited 2.5 years to say, well done, Mr. President. And I was very pleased he did it, but now we need to come home, and we need to focus on the one that matters, which is Iran.
How would you feel about Newt Gingrich as President of the United States?
Well, again, you are asking me to endorse or not endorse someone. The only position I've taken...
How do you feel? You said you wanted the most conservative candidate, or a true conservative.
Yeah,
How would you feel about Newt Gingrich?
I could, if Newt Gingrich ended up as the nominee, I could happily vote for Newt Gingrich.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon Conway on WHO Radio in Des Moines,
Iowa.
Anytime.
So there you go. There's Chris Matthews joining us.